Hello, dear book dragons. It's Matilda here. I hope you had a really good reading month in February. I have read lovely, lovely books. I read 9 books. Before you see me, I wanted to show you the pictures I've done in my book diary. So, for the Forest of Wool and Steel, I made a kind of picture of what's on the book with the piano notes in the forest, and there a little embroidery. Excuse me, I've been sick, so I've been doing quite small pictures. A little crown here, and a little ticking material, and a little bird. And for Northanger Abbey, a little ruin and a wolf. And the wolf I kind of draw from the pictures on the front. And then I actually didn't do any drawings yet for the last books I read. And yes, I also, because it's been my birthday month, I got several books. So I've actually written up all the books I was given and the books I bought for myself. And I'm going to start the video with talking about the books, all the books I got for myself, actually. So now I'll turn this up so you can see me. Hello, everyone. Hi. So it was my birthday in the beginning of February, and I was given lovely books from my family. And the one I actually did get on the day or the day before was Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune, which is the second book after The House in the Cerulean Sea. So I'm really, really excited to read this. And I also got a poetry book, In Love, In Kärlek, by My Rådmark, which is a friend of my sister. So I've actually only read one of the poems so far, but I really want to read them. It's exciting. And then a little bit later, I got this because it came out the day before my birthday, I think. Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. So this is the third and last book in the Emily Wilde series trilogy. So I'm right now rereading the second book. I just started, so I can immerse myself and remember everything before I start this. And this weekend I had a lovely friend over who we read together, and she gave me this beautiful book, Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. I haven't seen the film. I'm really excited to read this, and it's quite short, sweet book. So I'm really looking forward to read that as well. And then I got myself books. I always buy books for my birthday to myself also. And some of them I've read in February, so I'm not going to talk about them now. I'll talk about them later. But one of them was This Is Happiness by Neil Williams, which is about a young man in Ireland going back, I think, to his... he lives in a small village. I've heard about this on YouTube. I don't remember who it was now, and someone who was talking about this, one of her favorite books from last year. Sorry, I've been sick, really sick, yeah, it really sounds so interesting, so I decided to buy it. And another book that I bought for myself is The Scholar and the Last Fairy Door by H.G. Parry, and I read one of her other books just in December, and I loved it so much. That was The Magician's Daughter, and so I really wanted another book by her. This sounds a little bit like Emily Wilde, doesn't it? But I think it's a little bit darker. Yeah, this will be really interesting to read. And yeah, it's England's secret magical academy. It's no place for Clover, a commoner. She's there only to find a cure for her brother Matthew, one of the few survivors of a deadly fairy attack on the battlefields of World War I. Oh, yeah, that'll be interesting. And I also got myself The Witch Would Not by Olivia Atwater. I read 3 of her books, which is very light and fairy, and I think this is a little bit darker, but I don't think it's so scary. But it's kind of Victorian spookiness and fairies, and I guess there will be love because there's love in all her books. And I had 3 more books, but those will be in my red pile. And then I also got myself I didn't plan that at all, but I got myself Valentine's collection, 4 novels about love, one by Virginia Woolf, Oscar Wilde, Leo Tolstoy, and Mary Shelley. So this is like a little box, with the books. Well, it's not books, it's novels. Look how sweet. Mary Shelley, Tolstoy, Virginia Woolf, in Swedish. So that will be fun to read. A lot of classics. And easy to read, I guess. Well, fast to read anyway. So I have to read them at some point, of course. I could be only reading books and I'll still have books to read in 10 years. If I didn't buy new books. So this were the books I got myself for my birthday. And that's not the end. I'm not going to show all of them, but we have this in Sweden. We have this book sale, yearly book sale at the end of February that goes on for weeks, and all the bookshops do them. So I ordered some books from the book sale. I bought some in where I buy my food. And I bought some in the bookstore just where I live, and in the book chain overall Stockholm. I realized I don't really have them here. Well, yes, I do have some of them. Yes, I do. But yeah, I forgot about them, and there's not too many. I got this little cute guide, a flora guide with lovely pictures. I always want to learn more about flowers, and I also got a guide about books, which I really want to know more about. Also some lovely pictures. And I also got a book about aquarelle in 5 minutes, and I have already several books about painting, but yeah. And I usually don't really read them, but I like looking at the pictures. I think I learn better by watching videos really than reading the books. But yeah, I hopefully learn something of this. I think I will. And then I got a really interesting book, Jag, a novel about Karin Larsson, who met Carl Larsson in Paris. He is a very famous artist. She is also famous, but as usual, the men get more famous. They built a beautiful home together in Sweden, which is, you can still go there and see it as a museum. Yeah, they met, I guess, 1882. So that's some while ago. They met in Paris. So I'm actually going to read this as my traveling book, so I'll start this soon. And and then I'll get on Persuasion, which I didn't really need to get because I have it in my big collection here, but I really wanted a small, easy one that's light, and maybe I can, if I want to underline something. I don't really want to do that, and it's a beautiful, pretty book. So Persuasion, and I really, really like Penguin's classics. They have such a nice feel to both the paper, lovely paper. One reason I bought this was also that when I read in the big Jane Austen collection, I thought the words were so small, but I realized they're quite small in this one as well. But yeah. And then I bought The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. And the thing is that I borrowed this at the library. I've seen so many people talking about how this is so good and so easy to read. So I borrowed it from the library. But the thing is, it was only 2 weeks loan. And the book is 1,300, 400 pages. And I only came like 200 pages. So, and I had to give it back. And I didn't want to, because there was other people in the queue, so I couldn't just reloan it. I realized, well, I actually do really want to read this book. It's easy to read, it's interesting. So I bought it. It's so thick. I mean, compared to Persuasion. And this is also a Penguin classic, but the kind of Penguin. And I really like. Yeah, I really like Penguin. And they're cheap. And this was not planned either, but I saw on a big book group on Facebook that Lucinda Riley, one of my favorite authors, who actually died almost 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago, her son has kind of, and she wrote this book many years ago, and she wasn't very famous then, and it didn't go well with it or something, I guess. So now he has kind of made it a little bit better. And now that she is very famous, a lot of people will read it. And I'm so looking forward to read this. I read all her books and I love 95% of them. This is just one book that annoyed me a bit, but still a good book. And she always, mostly, I think, often write about contemporary time and history. And this is called The Hidden Girl. And it's a girl raised in a small village on the Yorkshire moors. And yeah, the one who wrote about it in this group said it was one of her best books. I'm really, really looking forward to read that. And at the same time, I ordered something totally different, and that's Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillier. I read another book of her, Wildwood Dancing, which was really, really good. It's both very sweet and cute and dark at the same time. And I think it will be the same with this. I think actually this will be darker because a lot of people say there's a lot of, well, maybe not a lot of, but a special place in the book. There's a lot of abuse. And this is based, I think most of her books are based on old fairy tales. So it's like a retelling of the 7 swans. Or 6 swans. And so this is about a princess and her brothers who are turned into swans by their evil stepmother, and she can save them, but then she has to keep quiet until she's made these woven clothes for them, just like in the old story by, I think, both the Grimm brothers and the Danish Um, yeah, you know what I mean. Sorry. Embarrassing. Well, there's different versions of this, but I'm really looking forward to it. So, yeah, that's the books. Most of the books that I got. I got more that I didn't take with me now. So, let's go talk about the books that I read in February. And the first book is The Forest of Wool and Steel. I can see it's not very thick. It's by Natsu Miyashita. I give it 4.5 stars. It's a very beautiful, very poetic book about a young man, a very young man, Tomura, who wants to learn how to tune pianos. And it's kind of coincidence, because when he is at school, just the end of term really, and there's a piano tuner who the teacher asks him to show where the piano is, so he gets to listen to while he works, and he's really fascinated, and he decides that he wants to become a piano tuner. And the whole book is about piano tuning. So that's why I didn't give 5 stars, because it could have been a little bit more about the relationships, I would say. But yeah, it's a lot about his unsecureness. Well, he's very insecure about how do you become a really good piano tuner, and it's this feeling of unworthiness goes on quite long, even he just becomes more sure at the end of the book. And it's also so interesting because there's no love story. I thought there would be. I thought, like, oh, he really likes that girl. So, why? But nothing. Nothing happens. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. But which makes it really interesting, really, because his aim in life is like to become her personal piano tuner. It's so obvious that he really likes her, but they never really talk about it in that way. It's more like, I want to become your personal piano tuner. And yeah, it's a lovely, lovely book. And then I read a book that I don't have here because it was a library book. A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. And yeah, that's all the books I've read by her. I haven't read that many. I think 2 more. Really, really good. They're often quite dark, but also cute at the same time. And this was the same, I would say, maybe more cute, but also quite creepy. It's about a girl called Cordelia, and her mother, Evangeline, is a sorceress, and she's an evil, evil sorceress. She can control Cordelia totally if she wants to. She doesn't do it all the time, but when she doesn't behave as she wants to, she will make her. She becomes like a doll then. It's really creepy. And she has a horse that belongs to her mother, but she can ride on him, and that's her kind of her freedom. So towards the middle of the book, or maybe I shouldn't talk about this. No, that's a spoiler. No, forget about it. But you will be shocked. She is shocked, because the horse isn't really just an ordinary horse, obviously. But the story is that her mother wants to move from the little cottage and marry a rich man, so her daughter can marry a rich man. And so she makes a plan. She finds a person in a city, and they go there, and they invite themselves into his house, and all goes very smoothly. But he has a sister, and who is so lovely, and she seems to have a little bit of magic of her own, because she can see this woman is not good. And the relationship between this sister, Hester, and Cordelia is so lovely, because Cordelia have never really had any. Well, she had one friend, but she's never had an older woman to look up to, and it's just so sweet. She teaches her how to embroider, so that's why I made a little picture of embroidery. Yeah, I gave it 4.8 stars. Now that I think about it, I think I should give it 5 stars, really. It was just lovely. So sometimes a bit creepy, but it wasn't too, definitely not too creepy. It was great. Yes. And then I read Burning Crowns by Catherine Doyle, Catherine Weber, and this was also one of my birthday books to myself, because I read the second book in January, and I of course needed to read the last book, so I bought this to myself. And I think I like this better than the second book. It's about two twin sisters, Zoran and Rose, who are now queens of their island. And there's a lot of romance in this book, but it's also a lot of battle against their evil ancestor, Unag. So yeah, it was good. It was. I think I liked the first book best. I don't know. It's difficult to say because it was like 2 years ago I read that one, but yeah, it was entertaining and really sweet. Yeah. And then I read The Twilight Garden, which I also gave myself for my birthday. And I read another book by her, The Reading List, which was a devastating, beautiful, and such a sad read. That was a shocking book to read. It was just so sad. This is different. And this is also sad, but not on that level that book was. And it's not about books, it's about gardening. It's about neighbors, really. So it's this kind of young man, Winston, who lives with his love, but he is not there. He works all the time. Not Winston, but Alex, or what his name is. So he's really depressed, really, through quite a long time through the book, I would say. So yeah, it is a sad book. And he gets a new neighbor who really annoys him. They have a shared garden, and that annoys the neighbor and annoys him that she is very annoying. And she has a little son who is really cute. And you also get to read about people who lived there in the 70s. So sometimes you read about this Winston and the neighbor, and sometimes you read about Maya and Alma, who lived there in the 70s, and their friendship and the garden they made together. And someone is sending Winston and the neighbor letters about the garden, how it used to be. So that's how he starts gardening. So the whole book is really about neighbors, friendships, and gardening, and how gardening can make you happier. Really good book. I gave it 4.8 stars. Yes. And then I read Northanger Abbey with a friend, and I read it in my huge Jane Austen collection of. This is a collection of all her finished novels. So it's how many books are there in this? Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park, Emma, Northanger Abbey, and Persuasion. And I have read Sense and Sensibility. Sorry, I have read Pride and Prejudice. I have read Emma, and this was the first time I read Northanger Abbey, and later on we will read Persuasion together. So no, it's only Persuasion Mansfield Park I haven't read. But as you can see, this is a quite heavy book. I usually quite often eat while I read, but when I read something with these golden pages, I don't want to destroy it. But the book, Northanger Abbey, it was quite a short book, just like Persuasion. It was quite thin. I found it kind of odd. I've seen the films, I knew the story, and I know it's not as scary as Catherine, the person, believes. And I don't remember that Jane Austen has done this before, but she, as a writer, turns to us as a reader several times, like, hello, dear reader. Well, not hello, but dear reader. And that was like, oh, I should have done that before. That was a bit odd. The story about Catherine, how she goes to Bath and meets new people and meets this really annoying family, really. Well, she gets a friend, and her friend's brother is so rude. He really likes her, but he shows it in a very strange way. And then she meets, maybe she does from the beginning. She meets Mr. Tilney, which she really likes from the beginning. And she wants to be with him and his sister, but her other friends are in the way all the time. So that was kind of annoying. And he's so annoying, this man. I've forgotten his name, but it doesn't matter. Mr. Tilney is also a little bit strange sometimes, but he's sweet. He's sweet, but the thing I felt about this book, that I didn't really get to know the people in the book very well. I was like, Mr. Tilney's father is so sweet to her all the time, and I was like, is he nice to her because she wants her to marry his son, or does he actually wants to marry her himself? That was a bit weird, but yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's her best book. I still gave it 4.5 stars. Maybe I should just give 4 stars. It is allowed to give it 4 stars, even if it's Jane Austen. It was entertaining when she had all these fantasies about ghosts and that Mr. Tilney's father had killed their mother and stuff. But that was just kind of weird. But yeah. If you want to read just one Jane Austen book, I would say write Pride and Prejudice, because you probably already know the story well, and it's really sweet and entertaining. Yes. And then I read A Wolf for a Spell, which I also gave myself for my birthday, by Clara Sutton. This is like a middle grade fantasy book, and I was introduced to this book by one of my favorite YouTubers, A Moment of Wonder. Now I remember your name. And I love this book so much. I gave it 4.8 stars. And it's about a wolf, a girl, and a witch, Baba Yaga. So this is full of Baba Yaga stories. And this wolf, I really love this wolf. She's so lovely. She goes against her pack because they're so afraid of the witch. They think if you're just near the witch, she will change you. There's so many things going on in this book. The wolf needs Baba Yaga's help, and this girl who lives in a village, she wants to leave the village. She doesn't want to, she lives in this what's it called? Oh, all the children who doesn't have parents. Yeah, she wants to leave the village anyway and live in the forest, but it's dangerous there. Everything is kind of poisonous and stuff. And then there's an evil Tsar who is going to marry her friend. So it's a lot about helping each other and becoming friends. And Baba Yaga changes body with the wolf, and when the wolf becomes human, that's kind of, well, it becomes a witch, more like it. That's so funny to read. And she goes to the castle where the Tsar lives, and she gets a job there while she tries to find a girl, and she gets friends there. It's just so cute story. Yeah, I would say read this book. This was one of my favorites. And when I was sick for 2 weeks. Well, I don't know, a week, but then my voice, I've been coughing since 3 weeks. When I am sick, and I usually read the complete Bramley Hedge. Well, I read it at least once a year. I want to read it like every spring, summer, autumn, winter. It usually don't happen, but it's such a beautiful book with beautiful pictures. I'll show you here. I forgot to put this book in Jill Barklam, who wrote and made these pictures, she did, which was in the early 80s, I think. So I could have read it when I was a kid, but I don't think I did. Well, this is full of different stories. So there's a spring story and a summer story, autumn story, winter story. And then there's a secret staircase, the high hills, sea story, and Poppy's babies. And it's all about these mice. These cute mice who eats and feasts and have parties and birthday cakes and Christmas dances, and I just look at all the details. It's this one book with pictures to buy this, because you can just read it and reread it and reread it. It's so lovely. So that's always a 5-star read for me. And oh yes, this was actually one of the books that I bought at the grocery store, at the book sale. Resan in Swedish, Big Panda and Little Dragon. I guess that's what it's called in English as well. It's by James Norbury, and every page has a picture or two, and it's usually maybe one line or two of the story. So you can read this in like 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. I read it twice already. I read it for myself, and then I read it loud for Fredrik, my boyfriend. It's a very wise, sweet story about how Little Dragon feels insecure and depressed, and he doesn't know why. He doesn't really have a reason. And the Big Panda, who is very wise and sweet, said, well, you need some change. Let's go out and travel in the world. Let's see what happens. And they have a lot of adventures, and things doesn't really happen as they thought. And Little Dragon gets more and more sad and depressed because, yeah, the only thing that he brought with him was this China set, and that was lost. So, and for when it is really sad, it's usually a very great picture, and when he feels better, there's a colorful picture. So yeah, it's really, really thought through. And apparently this is a second book. So there is an earlier book, but apparently this has more story to it. So this is also, like me, who likes paintings, this is also a very good book to get inspiration from to paint, I would say. This is especially if you like to paint in watercolors. Yeah, it's just so cute. It's so nice with a book that can read so fast and you just can read it again and again. And it's really like I don't always forget words. But yeah, well, it's full of Buddhist wisdoms, I would say. Yeah. And the last book I read in February was this really thick book, Anastasia, by Sophie Lark. And I saw one of my favorite YouTubers, Darling Desi. She talked about this book, I think in her like the books I read in 2024 kind of video, that she loved this so much. So I borrowed it at the library and I have to give it back tomorrow. So I really need to make this video today. And it's so thick. I really, really like this book, but it took so long time to read. It took me 12 days. That's quite a lot. For me, that's a lot. 662 pages. And it's about Anastasia, one of the princesses in the Romanov family. But this is in a fantasy setting, so everyone has some kind of magic. And in the start of the book, she's only like 12 or 13 or 11 maybe, and she hasn't found her magic yet. So that's the kind of start of the book. Everything is still happy and fine. And she's quite a wild girl when her father, who is at he's having a war with the Cossacks, or the war is over, and the Cossacks are going to pledge their allegiance, and he wants the only son, who is a very sickly boy, to come and witness this. And Anastasia wants to go. She's not allowed, but she sneaks in to the train and goes there, which is very lucky because she saves him. Because suddenly, when he's in danger, she has time magic, so you can slow down time, which the Tsar also has. So, and that is kind of one of the reasons why they are in power, because of this time magic. Because it's much easier to win wars if you have time magic. And the other thing why they're also leading Tsar is because they have this kind of diamond thing called charoite, which enhances their magic. It's dangerous. It's a bit like the ring in the Lord of the Rings, that the ring gives you impulses to do stuff, but they're all kind of evil. It helps them, but they make them do bad stuff. So yeah, and this is full of vampires. And of course Rasputin, and he is kind of friend to the family in the beginning. I think actually, I'm not sure because I don't know the real story that well, but it feels like she follows the real story quite closely, but makes it her own way. And after finishing this book, I walk around in my area in the evening, so I'm never scared. But a couple of evenings ago, I was like, "There's vampires here. I think it's vampires there." So, I don't like reading about vampires. I didn't actually know there would be vampires in this book, but they are. There's also a really lovely love story in this book. And Damien, who she meets, is actually the son of the Cossack leader. And because he tries to kill the Tsar, he but doesn't make it because of Anastasia's magic. He instead of killing him, they just punish him by making him have to go to St. Petersburg and work for the family for 10 years. So, well, he has to go to the military service for 10 years, which for him is, of course, a big punishment because he's lived outdoors all his life. And that's how their love story begins. And what's so interesting in this book is how their different magics kind of get stronger and enhances when they're close. And his magic, which is kind of death magic, is dangerous. But everything he touches dies. Well, at least if it's like flowers and stuff. If it touches a person, they will hurt. And the longer it touches, he can kill a person with his hands. I probably shouldn't say too much, but she learns magic from Rasputin. She forces him to teach her. So she becomes more and more adept with her time magic, but she also learns to use fire and other stuff. Yeah, I shouldn't say more. No, I can't talk too much about the books because then you won't read them. But yeah, I gave this 4.5 stars. I could have given it more, but as I said, I felt a bit too thick actually. I usually love thick books. So I don't know why. It's probably because I really wanted to read the Emily Wilde that was given for my birthday. I was like, oh, I'm going to finish it so I can start my Emily Wilde book. Because when I was reading it, I thought it was fine. I was like, oh, it's good. I just want to keep reading. But when I wasn't reading it, I was like, oh, why does it take so long time? So, yeah. Well, it was really good. It was entertaining. It was very romantic, and I will have to say towards the end it's very spicy. Good to know if you don't want to read spice. Not extremely spicy, but there are beautiful love scenes, I would say. So that was the 9 books that I read in February, and my favorites were A Sorcerer Comes to Call, Wolf Spell, and The Complete Bramley Hedge, which will always be favorite. And have a lovely time. I'll see you in the end of March. Bye.